Have you ever wondered why you get a pit in your stomach when you are anxious or why you feel exhausted after helping people? It's not random. Your stomach, spleen, and heart are doing more than just physical functions. They are processing your emotions, your stress, and even your self worth every single day. And when these organs get overwhelmed, your body lets you know. And so, today, I'm going to help you decode these messages so you can finally work with your body instead of against it. Hi, everyone. My name is Acacia, and welcome to the Let Go Movement podcast. If you've been with me for a few episodes, you know that last week we did part one of this series where I talk about the emotions and the organs because they play such an important role to our mental, emotional, and physical well being. Energy creates our physical reality, and that includes our body. And so when things get stuck, when energy's not moving, when we haven't addressed emotions that we've been feeling, or we've inherited shit from our parents that we really don't need, and their parents and their parents and their parents, hashtag ancestors, we don't need this. It all starts clogging up the system. So my job with people is to help you release that from the body. And it's not about working harder or doing more. It's actually about letting go of a lot and really being radical in the self awareness and letting go of what you do not need anymore and what's no longer serving you, including things that we picked up from our ancestors 20 plus generations ago. So, in last week's episode, we discussed how the lungs, the liver, and the large intestine were affected by the grief, the anger, and control. So, if you want to go listen to that episode, definitely catch up with that one. But for today, we're going to dive into the stomach, spleen, and heart. These organs process worry, overthinking, and joy. And what happens when these emotions get stuck or just like overwhelmingly too much for the system, you start to see things come up in your world. And we're going to discuss those for each one of the emotions and organs that they're related to. So if you've ever felt like you're a little crazy, a little sensitive, you're not making it up. There are things at play that are triggering you into these heightened states. Your emotions don't just affect your mood, they actually shape your biology. And we know this from epigenetic work. When we learn the emotions, the emotional language of each of the organs, we can gain a very powerful tool to start understanding and healing our bodies from the inside out. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot in his meditations, where we can heal from the inside out. Meditation in various forms talk about this, where we heal from the inside out by healing the energy within will heal the physical manifestation of it. And I'm a huge believer in that. I do it a particular way through guided visualizations with clients and really working the emotion code process to guide my clients in very specific emotions that were trapped or taken on at very specific times. So let's dive into this, shall we? Let's start with the stomach. For many of us, it's where we live emotionally, especially in a world that asks us and almost has this feeling of demand to go faster and to have more. The stomach holds worry, anxiety, overthinking, and often a deep sense of feeling unsafe and or out of control. So the stomach meridian line starts under the eye, moves down the face, neck, chest, and abdomen, and down the front of the legs to the second toe. That's the Chinese medicine pathway of the meridian line that the stomach is on. Role for this, as we know, is digestion, nourishment, receiving of foods and fluids. So it is part of that intake and then distributing it. And it has to break it down so that the information can be further integrated into the body or expelled from the body. So this can show up if you've got some worry, anxiety, some feeling of unsafe. We can see this show up in your life as nausea, indigestion, bloating, a nervousness or decision or confrontation, just really awkward. Appetite swings, like if you've got some emotions going on and it's like really affecting your appetite, you want to look at what are you having troubles digesting? What is going on in the stomach? Do you have anxiety? Are you worried about something? Emotional eating is also that too. So maybe you're not eating as much or you're eating sometimes more and sometimes less, but also where are you emotionally eating? Where are you trying to cope or numb out in a certain way? Over analyzing, ruminating, like really being stuck in that second guessing kind of format when we don't feel like we're safe to make a decision, when we are like really in the worry and the anxiety, that grounded decision processing that comes naturally to all of us when we're in alignment, it starts to get a little out of whack because the energy within the stomach is kind of all over the place. Tension in your upper abdomen or like solar plexus also, because that's where the stomach lies, right under the heart or diaphragm, maybe liver. I'd have to check my anatomy, but you get the point. It's pretty high up there. It's actually not low. It's quite high in the solar plex area. So if you're getting tension there, first thing, what am I anxious about? What's going on that I've got a little bit of worry around? Where am I feeling unsafe? Okay. So those are all questions you can do to help you kind of move through the organ and move through the energy and move through the physical symptoms that you might be feeling. Another way to support your stomach and your body and your emotional and mental state is soothing, grounding foods. So, like warm soups, cooked vegetables, ginger tea, really great. Put your hands on your stomach when you're feeling anxious and tell yourself that you are safe. You got yourself, you can get through this, like reaffirming to your body and your nervous system that this is good. We are okay here. We can handle whatever gets thrown our way. Reducing stimulation after meals. So that is like the excess stimulation. Walking after meals is really great, but it's that stimulation that kind of puts us into that like negative mindset, that kind of like downward spiral. So like doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, like don't suggest that after eating. Journal prompting is a great way to help move your emotions. I think journal prompting is great for every emotion and every organ because it really allows you to get it out onto paper and for your brain to start to see it from a different perspective. And nervous system regulation. And there are tons out there like tapping or vagus nerve breath work, various breath works in general, just simply breathing, taking 5 minutes to meditate on your breath or on the stomach and visualize what no longer needs to be there, leaving your body. You can also download the back pocket reset. And I do a body scan to help you go through your body very quickly and remove the energies that don't need to be there. And this audio series is designed to be quick and consistent. So the more you do it, the more you'll get better at the tool. And then you can start to implement these tools whenever you need them, say hanging out at a Walmart lineup. God forbid you have to wait in Walmart to pay for something. My body does not like Walmart. Or you're standing in line for a takeout or something and you're feeling a little bit of something come up. As you start to hear and practice the back pocket reset audios, you'll really get to gain practice in that tool and hopefully be able to, with the hopes of implementing any one of the tools on your own so you can start clearing your body as things are coming up for into your awareness. So let's also talk about the spleen. So the spleen is great. Worry, self-worth, and feeling unseen is all emitted from the spleen. And I kind of see these as, they're not things to be looked at as like negative emotions in the traditional sense of negativity. I look at them as like awareness. Where have you gone a little off kilter with like alignment, honoring truth, worthiness, trust and faith in yourself. And these emotions that kind of come up are your kind of indicators as to like, I've got this hanging around, or you know what, this is coming up a little often. Let's look into this. It's not to be looked at as um, a judgment. Like, I'm feeling unseen again. Okay, what about feeling unseen is coming up for you? Where have you been feeling unseen? What in your world can you release that can help you shift this energy? Is the spaces you're in the right spaces for you? So, really, the awareness really brings back self responsibility in the creation of your life and asks you to let go of what you can let go of so that you can choose and be in a very different space and energy so that you are seen, that you are choosing places that are seen in partnerships that see you and honor you, and you are working on your self worth and really knowing that anything but you're fucking deserving of it all is like not to be entertained. Like you're worthy of everything you want to ask for. You don't need to be righteous in it, but you are worthy of what you want. So let's dive into the spleen. So the spleen is connected to the mental worry, the rumination, the low self-esteem and the over responsibility when we're like giving so much. So even though it's further down, it is connected to the mental pathway. And so the pathway from the meridian perspective begins at the big toe, runs along the inside of your leg, through the abdomen, and connects to the spleen and stomach organs. And its main role is to transform and transport nutrients, manages fluids, supports digestion, and the immune system and function or immune functions. So, how does this show up? How do these emotions start manifesting in your world? So, fatigue that doesn't match output. So, if you're tired and you really don't have an explanation as to why, you want to look at your spleen. Drained, you're feeling drained from people's emotions. So this is, I like to bring in a human design element here when we were thinking about like other people's emotions. From a human design perspective, 50% of the population is defined emotion center and 50% is undefined. And when you're undefined, you amplify the emotions around you. You take on people's emotions. So if you're feeling drained being around people, you want to check in with your spleen. You want to see where you're feeling unseen. Maybe you are over outputting, you're taking more responsibility on for somebody else. And this can be done so discreetly that you're not even aware of it until you start asking questions of, am I taking on somebody else's responsibility? Am I outputting far beyond my wants, desires, and boundaries? And who am I around that's really I'm amplifying their emotions and starting to take them on as mine when they're really not mine. Brain fog or feeling scattered mentally. There's so many things that can give us brain fog from like a physical perspective. From that emotional and energetic perspective, though, look at the spleen and see what we can release to release the clogged mentalness or the scatteredness so that we can get back to being in clarity with ourselves, with our bodies, and the life we're creating. Low immunity, frequent colds or infections. This is actually something that I've recently had to look at because I got an infection kind of like out of nowhere, where the doctor's like, your immune system must be very low for you to contract this. And I was like, interesting. Had no idea. Doing some spleen work recently. And cravings for sugar and comfort food. Like I said, the spleen, when you're like, or I was talking about like over because it's connected to the stomach, you're over consuming food to comfort you in some way, and your appetite might be a little bit off. So the stomach and the spleen, you do want to kind of look at the same time. So again, what are you kind of clogged in the brain about? What are you stewing over, ruminating over? Um, can you improve your self-esteem? Like confidence is such a huge aspect in life, and being confident in yourself really comes from the inside out. It's not something you buy, it's not something you wear, it's something you be. And clearing the spleen is going to help you reconnect to that super amazing confident self that you desire to be in. So how can we support the spleen in other ways? So boundaries, especially emotional ones, especially how much time you might be giving to a project or a person or an environment. I know that like large crowds and we do well on very short periods of time, and particular crowds I agree with more than others. If it's a very frantic crowd, like my body just is like a hell no. But if it's aligned with something I do and it brings me joy, then crowds are really great. And rest. I think everyone could do so much good for their bodies and their being if we rested more. Like, where can we increase our rest and relaxation in our life? Okay, let's move on to the next one. The heart, the joy, the connection, and deep connection. And sometimes this actually comes up a lot for clients where we actually bring up overjoy as an emotion that we need to release because we've just been so excited about something, but we felt like we've had to stuff it in because we felt like it wasn't being seen, it wasn't being received. So we'll kind of like flip the switch and we'll stuff it into our body, and then that creates a little bit of havoc too in our world. So the heart isn't just about pumping blood. It is one of the organs. It is the biggest electro magnetic outputter of the all organs in your body. It also has the same memory cells as the brain, has it in the heart. So it remembers things and it communicates with the brain. 60 times more often than the brain communicates with the heart. So when we're blocked here, when things are not moving, when we've stuffed things into our heart, we throw off that beautifully created, harmonizing flow of information from heart to brain and heart out. So this um, organ also governs like purpose and aliveness. And when we feel like we're not in those spaces in our life and we're not living from our purpose, or we're not alive in life, we're not living, we don't have that lust anymore, it also starts to affect us physically in our heart. So, the meridian path line, just to give you some information here, starts at the heart, travels through the chest to the armpits, and runs down the inner arm to the pinky fingers. So, this is when we're like, spread your wings wide, it's like take up space, expand out. And when we want the heart coherence, we want the heart magnetic field to pulse out even more and to really get connected with that. And the heart's main role physically is like circulation, but it's also consciousness and spirit and emotional balance. So when this is kind of out of whack, what starts to happen is you start to see heart palpitations, chest tightness, feeling emotionally flat, like you just not connected to your joy, trouble sleeping, especially between 11 p.m. and 1 p.m. Each organ has like its reset time, and the organs reset, I think it's by the end of 4 a.m. They're like completed their reset, and the heart time is between 11 and 1. So if you're waking up in those time zones or you're having troubles sleeping, check in with your heart. What's going on? Um, Sadness that feels like it doesn't really have a point of origin. You just overall generally sad. Check in with your heart. Where are we not connecting with our joy? Where do we feel out of balance with our purpose? And where can we bring more of that like lust for living back into our world? And feeling open or too closed off to connection. So sometimes we're like super open, and that's actually bringing in things that don't align with our boundaries or asking our desires. So we get a little thrown off there. But also when we're closed off, when our heart wall, believe I discussed that in a previous episode, but when we're blocked, we're actually not emitting and not allowing our true vibe and essence to be expressed. So we can be closed off, and that disconnect also throws off just our natural human desire and want for connection. So check in if you're feeling disconnected, if you're feeling closed, or you're feeling way too open and you need to create some structure, tap in. So this can be supported through connecting with people that you genuinely light up around. Like these are your peeps. If you're ever feeling obligated to hang out with people, I really suggest you take a look at that and see how you can cut that out, because it's actually affecting you in a way that's going to move you away from your wants and desires and your overall health. And it's just not worth your time. Expressing love freely. So through words or touch or art or gratitude practice. I'm a huge fan of a gratitude practice. But expressing freely is such a human fundamental. It's like why we came here is to experience, to express, to be in love with our life that we're creating. And so if you require different people to feel safe, going back to that, to express your words through, or you're struggling to be expressive, we want to look at that. And that's actually something common that I work on with my clients is expressing, getting back to that expression, because somewhere, sometime in their life, they got into a situation that caused them to feel like they can't express. And so working out those emotions through those times in their life has been really helpful for them to reconnect with themselves and find that confidence back in that expression. Rest the mind. So if we are way too mental, it's throwing off the natural balance that should happen where our heart speaks to our brain. But if we are super stuck in our heads and mental, we're going to throw off that natural want for the heart to be speaking, and will dim the heart, will start to dampen our joy, and we'll get super mental, but we want to be back in our heart space. So, resting the mind is a great way to start bringing back that heart coherence. Laugh, play, dance, find your joy medicine, find your, I heard this term joy snacks from Fiona. She runs the Q marketing. She introduced me to joy snacks. Like, find your moments in your day, in your week that just bring you that juiciness back into life. Journaling is also a great way. Like, journal out all the bullshit, get it out. So, we've gone through the 3 organs. Why and how do these all work together? You've kind of seen, as I've gone through them, some little overlapping connection points. And so, when we go into like the worry, how it relates in the stomach is then it affects the spleen. And then that disconnect weakens the heart. So they are very much, even though they have their different lines, their different channels, they're very much in co-creationship with each other. And there's nothing silo in the body. It is all connected. And when those systems are stressed, they create a cycle like overthinking, fatigue, loss of joy, more anxiety, more fatigue, and it just becomes an emotional malnutrition for the whole body. So when we begin to nourish these systems emotionally, start to allow what doesn't need to be there and start to tune in and recalibrate ourselves, everything's going to start to shift. To finish off, which one of these today spoke to you and your body directly? Let me know below which of these 3 organs, the heart, the spleen, or the stomach, was kind of ringing some bells in your world. Because your body is not broken. I need to remind you that. It's not broken if you've got things coming up for you physically or mentally or emotionally. It is brilliant and is trying to talk to you. And so through this work, we can begin to uncover more of that conversation with our body and start to shift and change it. And so remember, couple things. You can download the Back Pocket Reset. I just launched this last week. It's a 3-part mini audio series with a corresponding workbook for you to work through. I even bring in the fascia tools that my body and the fascia I speak to my clients. And this is designed because my clients were asking for more. They wanted like in the moment clearing so that they weren't building up all their stuff to a session. And I also found it happening in my life where I would build all my stuff up for that next session and be like, my body's still overwhelmed. Well, some of my most popular requested meditations I've put into a mini series uniquely for everyone out there on the planet to be able to practice these tools, get the clearing that their body requires, and shift and move and find that joy back in their bodies and their life. So you can go ahead and download at www.acaciadebat.com/back pocket reset. All the information is there. And like I said, it's a free download. So grab your version or your copy today. I guess that's how you say it. Be sure to subscribe. Share this video with someone or this audio with someone that you think could benefit from learning about how the emotions and the organs are tied together and how that's playing out in your world emotionally, mentally, and physically. There's so much more physically that could be at play with you. So I really encourage you, no matter what is going on in your life, in your body, do the physical, but also please tap into the energetics of it because the energetics are the undertones of everything. So in next week's episode, we're going to finish off this series with the kidney, bladder, and gallbladder and how they hold fear, willpower, and being stuck in decision making, which kind of corresponds or is a connection to today's episode. So you don't want to miss that. Until the next episode, have a great day. See you guys later and peace out. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful I get to do life and conversation like this together. If today landed for you, I would love to hear what your takeaways were. Hop over to Instagram and hit me up in the DMs or leave a comment below. I love reading all of them. And if you haven't already done so, pay it forward by subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this with someone that you love. These actions directly impact the show and they help us reach a new audience, so I am very grateful in advance. And if you want to explore working together or dive deeper into this work, you can check out in the show notes all my current offers and ways to connect. Until next time, everybody, have a magical and fantastic day.